My name is Kim Woodsterchill, and I'm an anal cancer survivor. I was diagnosed about 4 years ago at the age of 51, which I now understand is a common timeline for anal cancer diagnosis. I remember it being a surreal experience receiving a cancer diagnosis, but for me, it was compounded by the knowing that my younger sister was in the final stages of her HPV-related cancer journey at the same time. I, in fact, was driving home from my oncology appointment where I received my staging and my radiation and chemo protocol when I received word that my sister had passed. About a year after my treatment, I found out that my daughter, who was 21 at the time, had been diagnosed with a high-risk strain of the HPV virus.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I'm 24 years old, and at the age of 21, I was diagnosed with a high-risk HPV.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony. I'm 20 years old, and I was diagnosed with HPV as of March 2021. I had realized that there was some pain in my colorectal area, and I decided to go to the ER because I believed it was hemorrhoids. I knew nothing about hemorrhoids, so I wanted to get a little more information on how they can be treated, prevented, and all of that. I then was diagnosed with HPV.
Hi, my name's Tom Bennett, and I am a HPV positive 16 cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in April of 2020, finished my last chemotherapy and radiation treatment on June 24th. It's been a tough year, but we made it through. I can just tell you that it's alarming to be told that you have cancer, and it's alarming to know that you have multiple steps throughout the way that you think you can get through, that are milestones that make you second guess a lot of things.
Hi, my name is Yolanda O'Neill, and I was diagnosed with stage 1 cervical cancer at the age of 40. At that time, I was the mother of 4 kids and had just delivered my 5th kid. I actually discovered that I had cervical cancer when I went for my follow-up checkup. Also, at the time that I was diagnosed, I was a nurse at the hospital where I was diagnosed and eventually had surgery.
Hi, I'm Cheryl McCurdy, and I'm a faculty member at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, and I'm here to tell you my story about being an anal cancer survivor.
My name is Marvin Cleason. I'm 67 years old, and in 2014, I was diagnosed with throat cancer.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Lopez, and I am a 24-year cervical cancer survivor.
So I found out I had HPV by going to the gynecologist to get my routine pap smear. I had known a little bit about HPV just because my family has like a cancer history that starts from it. So it was kind of this big fearful thing in my head. So yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it, but wasn't fully educated on what it was. My gynecologist told me not to worry and that it was a very common virus that 9 times out of 10 your body will fight off and it will become kind of dormant, so to speak. And so it was something I kind of just put in the back of my head, and I just continued going for my routine pap smears, but kind of expecting it to clear up just the way she had said. And since then I've had 2 colposcopies, and you know, it's still present and showing like a high risk HPV every time. So I'm still hopeful that what she said will come true for me, but my reality so far is that it is still there.
It was hard because the first thing they told me was you are now high at risk for developing cancer. And as a nursing student, I have learned that colorectal cancer was one of the scariest cancers to have. I then went to my primary care provider, who then referred me to a gastroenterologist, and I received 2 surgeries in 1 month in order to get rid of all the growths that were there. I now have to go every month, and I'm still getting snippets snipped off because of the regrowth that continues to happen. It was very traumatic for me. My social support wasn't very great, and I felt very alone through this entire process. I'm studying nursing right now, and what we were taught about HPV was that it puts you high at risk for cervical cancer. I had heard nothing else about this, and neither had my parents. They were just taught that it's a big risk for cervical cancer, and they decided, why would we vaccinate our boys if they don't have cervix, until it was too late.
Started out having headaches and an earache. Went to the doctor, gave me antibiotics and medicine. Nothing really helped. I was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, which is a cancer of the throat. It actually was a tumor on the back of my tongue, about the size of a mushroom, a small mushroom. And unfortunately, stage 4 cancer. At that time, I did not know what HPV was or is. I did not know that anything about it, did not know how I contracted it. Been married for 34 years now.
I will never forget the face of the physician when he was examining me, and he just shared with me that my insides looked like it was war torn. My cervix was bloodied and all cut up, and that I had cervical cancer.
So at that point in time, when she told me, I was like, wait a minute, I've been with the same man for how long, and how can I have an STI? And I kind of was asking her these questions, and she's like, no, you've probably had this for a really long time. But that was all she said. She's like, and don't worry about it, was the other thing she said. So she scheduled me for cryo, and I went in for that and never had another problem. And then I think sometime in the early 2000s, I had probably Pap smear that was positive, but they went back in and there was nothing. So, I just kept having my regular Pap smears. And then around 2005, 2006, I started having this kind of weird stuff, these cracks in my lips and my hands. I started having inflammation. I couldn't cut carrots. I couldn't catch a ball. My son was a kid. He wanted to play catch, and I couldn't do that because it hurt too much to catch a ball.
It was devastating. I'm like, no, I have to raise this kid. I still have the other kids to raise. This cannot be happening to me. I'd been married at that time, I think 15, 16 years, and things were just going well. And I remember being in a hospital and them bringing him up to me. I still have the pictures, and I couldn't even hold him because I just had the surgery. And I'm just like, this cannot be the end of my story.
We're kind of the anomaly. Because they say it's not genetic, but my mom had anal cancer from HPV, and so did my aunt.
The HPV virus affects 4 to 5 people. I don't think many of us make it out of here without an exposure to the HPV virus itself.
But the cancers.
The cancers are rare, but there are 3 daughters in my family, and 2 of the 3 of us had HPV cancers, and so it's while that's also rare, it isn't impossible.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that, it was really difficult for me to walk on my own out that door. I was so weak and so in so much pain. I wasn't eating much because, when you have pelvic radiation, it's an input-output thing, and it's a little gruesome to talk about, but you really don't want to go to the bathroom because it's like you're passing razor blades.
I had a very rough time, and it's something that I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life, the trauma of these surgeries and the social trauma that comes along with it. And now, I mean, I feel as if I'm at high risk all the time and growing older for some type of cancer. With the strain I have, they told me that it is very low risk of developing cancer, but you know, a risk is a risk. And just having, even if it was 0.00001%, I still have that anxiety of, you know what if I'm that 0.001%? Because that percentage came from somewhere, and I just hope that I'm not that percentage, but I have that anxiety for the rest of my life.
I wasn't out of the woods after the proton radiation and after the chemotherapy because I was still in some pain. There's because of this beam, that beam does a lot of damage. And I had some pain, and I took pain medications, and unfortunately I got addicted to the pain medications. I was using liquid morphine, and I was using a fentanyl, and it got to the point where I was taking the fentanyl on a daily basis because some of these people, they've basically taken their tongue out, they can't talk, they can't speak. If they do speak, I can't put it into words. If people could see what could happen, then it would become more serious and more people would line up for this vaccine. I truly believe that.
I was grieving. I grieved because I couldn't have any kids. I grieved because I lost these body parts that no longer were part of who I am or who I was. And, you know, I grieved because I didn't know how my life was going to be and if this was ever going to come back again.
For maybe a year, if not longer, I was afraid to go on any sort of, I couldn't go on a canoe trip or do any sort of hiking that would take me very far from an outhouse or a bathroom for a really long time. And so it really sharply curtails any kind of activities you can be involved in. And even going and just driving around with my son in the car, and he was like, "Why didn't you come to camp to pick me up?" Because we sent the grandparents to do it. My husband and the grandparents went. And I realized it was traumatic for him. And it's his stepdad and his step-grandparents, but I couldn't handle it.
For the 7+ minutes that you are locked down with a mask over your head, you can't move. You have this massive piece of, like a hockey puck in your mouth that's pushing your tongue down, and they're radiating back here, and you're gagging and choking on the pus, the excrement from the actual wound itself. You can smell your skin cooking as the radiation is in your mouth and then exiting the back of your neck. You can smell skin, and you have to swallow. And the last thing you can do very well is swallow.
You said you're young, you're 40, it's stage 1. I don't believe this is spread, and I think we can take care of you with surgery. And he gave me the options. We can just remove the cervix, we can remove everything. Talked to my family, my aunt, and she said, take it all out. Get rid of all of it. You have your 5 kids, you're healthy, get rid of all of it. You don't want to have any issues down the road, specifically with ovarian cancer issues. So I had a total radical hysterectomy at 40 with a newborn baby. It's once you're diagnosed with the C word or cancer, it's like life is just never the same. Every little thing kind of have you wondering is this back? Is this it? What's going on? And you just live for that 5-mile marker. You just live to get there because it's kind of like a good point. And so I remember getting to the 5-mile marker, the 10-mile marker. But every year going to those exams, going every year. At first it was monthly, then every 3 months. So it's been a long haul.